Hi there, Rachel Weaver here. I'm on faculty at Regis University's MFA program. I am making a series of videos in which I am exploring various things that we can all do with our background in writing out there in the working world. So today, Jennifer Van Alstyne is with me. Thank you for being here, Jennifer. I appreciate your time.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to speak with you all.
So Jennifer is a communication strategist. So my first question is, what does that mean? What do you do?
Yeah, so as a communication strategist, I help people really think about why they need to communicate and who they need to communicate with. So I work with professors, researchers, and scientists to help them communicate their research with the world. But I wasn't always doing this. I am a poet. I went to an MFA program myself at Naropa. And then after getting a second master's degree, I decided to start my own business because I really realized that my writing could actually help people. And it was something that not only was I good at, I enjoyed doing it too.
Mhm. And how did you get started?
Yeah. So when I was finishing up my grad program, there was a kind of a new job offering that was available. The department had decided they wanted some professional writers to help them communicate about the university. So as soon as I heard about this job offering, I was like, me, sign me up. Like, I want that experience. I didn't think I wanted to go on for a PhD. And so this was an option to maybe gain some new skills and do something that I thought I was pretty good at. So as soon as I joined that team, I kind of realized, wow, not only am I good at this, but I enjoy learning more about it. Really enjoy seeing how these skills can help me communicate for people. I think what I liked about it most was that writing for people on social media, writing on websites, it kind of reminded me of poetry in the sense that there were constraints, there was a goal for what I was writing, and I really got to be creative in how I communicated with people because the truth was the people who were in charge of this, like the professors and researchers who were, running writing for the department originally, they just weren't as in touch with the student body as I was because I was actually out there talking with them, doing programming. And so it made a big difference in what kinds of information were being communicated. All of a sudden, information was coming out that was specifically for students, for graduate students thinking about coming to the program. So discovering that I loved that and that I was good at that was what inspired me to start my own business. So I actually founded my business before I graduated my second master's degree. I did a master's in English. And so about 3 weeks before my actual graduation ceremony, I submitted my paperwork to file an LLC. And I needed time in order to kind of get the ball rolling. Like it wasn't just like I founded my LLC and had my first client right away. There was actually 2 or 3 months when I was just learning how to run a business, how to get set up, coming up with a website so that people could find me. There was a lot of kind of pre-work that went into creating my business before I could start earning money.
How do you find clients? How does that work? Or how do clients find you, I guess might be the
Yeah,
better way to ask
actually,
that question.
that's a great question because all of my clients have found me. I'm not someone who is like emailing people and like, will you work with me? I've been really lucky that the first thing that I created was that website. I created a social media account to be able to talk about my website. And that made it so that already like on day one people were learning about what I did, people were discovering my blog and seeing if there was something that I could help them with, even if it wasn't working together one-on-one. Having that information out there was so helpful because people could recommend me to their friends or to someone they knew who it might be relevant for. So I realized that having information about how I could help people out there was the most important first step for myself because I knew that I don't really like going out and reaching out to people to see if they want to work with me. It makes me uncomfortable. And I didn't know what this was called, but this practice is actually called inbound marketing. So if you're thinking about, having a business yourself and you want to get some clients, then inbound marketing is something that you might want to research because it's all about how to bring your potential customer to you.
Mhm. Just making a note. Um, and then like what is what would you say is sort of a reasonable amount of time that someone could expect to build a business, to the point where it takes up a significant amount of your time, and potentially pays your bills.
Yeah, so I think that that's kind of the balancing act that people have to figure out for themselves. I was pretty lucky, my fiance was in a PhD program himself. We weren't bringing in much money as it is. So my goal was just to replace the income that I was getting as a teaching assistant from, what I was making in my first year as a business owner. I was able to do that luckily, but it didn't happen until the end of the year. So financially, you definitely have to plan what is feasible for you. Can you go full time just like I did? Or do you need to do it as a side hustle with maybe another job as kind of your main source of
Right.
income? So because I was able to do it full time and kind of hit the ball rolling, I had to learn a lot of business things. I got set
Yeah.
up with an accountant. I needed a lawyer to look over contracts with me, like all of these things that a lot of new business owners don't really think of. That's what I spent those first couple of months doing before taking on client projects. These things were so important for me to set up, but I didn't necessarily know why when I started. Now that I'm 3 years into my business, I'm so glad that I did, because I've seen other business owners maybe get an accountant or a lawyer to look at their contracts years down the line and realize that they're missing out on a lot of money, or they're missing out on a lot of protections with the clients that they work with because they maybe didn't want to take on that expense early on. But if you're listening to this, I do recommend it, because your time is valuable. And, the work that you do with whoever you're working with is going to be something that they appreciate and that they value because they've chosen to work with you. So protecting yourself in financially and legally is something that'll be really beneficial.
hmm There's actually a lot of resources through a group called Score Denver. Are you familiar with them?
I'm not.
When I started my own editing business, it was something that I came across, which I'll put in the down below the video as well for anyone interested in heading out in this direction. But they basically will pair any new entrepreneurial person with someone who, it's usually like a retired person who has run a business of his or her own for a number of years or decades. And it's a person that you can just ask all these sorts of questions to, like, what do I need? How do I get started? It's just sort of a mentorship program that's free. And they offer a lot of great advice, like along the
Oh, I
lines of
think that's
exactly what
great.
you're talking about. Yeah.
The
Um,
places where I found a lot of that kind of support,
mhm,
where I took one professional development training where I was working with like business coaches on how to start your business, and you got personalized feedback from them. I thought that was really helpful. But what's been most helpful for me is actually I found a group of women who were doing kind of similar businesses, and we all set up a Slack channel and we talk with each other all the time. And being able to learn from each other's problems or issues that we encounter has been so valuable for all of us. So finding a group of people, or even just one person that you can talk with about this, is going to be so helpful.
mhm, mhm. And then another question that I have just about sort of communication strategist jobs in general, is this typically something that people do in a freelance type of way like you are, or are there these sorts of jobs, as a part of a larger company as
Yeah,
well?
that's a great question. Actually, I haven't found anyone who does something exactly like I do. There are people who offer slightly different services than I do, but who still do consulting. But what I found was that I really needed to create my business to solve the problems of my customers, which were professors who just didn't have the training to communicate effectively online. And so what I found was that I needed to design my own services and design my own business to actually meet their needs. And that was something that website designers aren't offering, that social media managers aren't offering. So the strategist portion comes from combining those two worlds with one goal in mind, which is really to help professors communicate. So I kind of created my own title, created my own kind of packages and services and consulting and workshops. I had to design all of that to meet really specific needs. So it may be that the job job that you're going to be great at, it doesn't exist yet. You might have to create it, right?
Yeah.
But really understanding who you can help and how you can help them is the first step to getting there. And I'm so glad I did. Like, I'm so glad I put in that work and didn't go the traditional route of becoming a traditional website designer with a certain set of packages. Being able to plan and interview and strategize with people is what they really need. So, that's my top suggestion for all of you.
Mhm. Great. Any last words of wisdom for anybody who thinks that this might be a path that they are interested in pursuing?
Yeah, I was pretty down after my MFA program. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I thought that because I was good at research, that academia continuing on for a PhD would be a good fit. But the truth was, I didn't want the job that came after that. I didn't want to be a professor, as admirable as that position is. But I knew I could still help them. So I think that it's really important to think about what you want, to think about what you're good at, and to think about how you can help the world, because it's probably in a way you haven't thought of that you didn't expect. So just being open to potential. That's really, what I wanted to end with.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rachel.